can you not see it? Brothers and sisters, there is but one way to wipe the scourge from the face of Azeroth. The Scarlet Crusade offers you the protection that you so desperately desire, and if you pledge yourselves to us, surely we will reach our ultimate goal. Defy us, and you will be dispatched in a blaze of golden light unlike any you have ever witnessed. The Scarlet Crusade is one of the more unique enemies you'll face while exploring Azeroth. On the outside, they might seem like your normal group of everyday paladins, but in truth, they are a vengeful group of fanatic worshippers of the light who destroy all who don't share their radical views. Their history is one of sympathetic origins, but the corruption and the inevitable downfall of their crusade was all because of the underlying deceit within the heart of their organization. First, a quick word from today's sponsor. Keeps. Look, dudes, because most of you are dudes, did you know that 2 out of 3 dudes experience some form of male pattern baldness by the time they're 35? Well, thankfully, Keeps can help prevent those precious hairs from falling off your head with their FDA-approved medication for hair loss. The best thing about Keeps is you can get treated right from the comfort of your own home by signing up online and getting connected with a doctor who helps you in your mission to restore your luscious locks. And remember, it's important to act fast, as the sooner you start using Keeps, the more hair you can save. If you're ready to take action and prevent hair loss, go to keeps.com/platinum or click the link in the description to receive 50% off your first order. That is keeps.com/platinum. The Third War has just concluded on Azeroth. The Kingdom of Lordaeron has been totally destroyed by the Scourge after the kingdom's prince, Arthas Menethil, betrayed his people and allied with the undead and killed his own father and his mentor Uther. The group of paladins called the Knights of the Silver Hand was disbanded, but these crusaders continue to fight to defend fortified settlements where survivors cling to life. One of these paladins was a mountain of a man named Saidan Dathrohan, who was one of the original founders of the Knights of the Silver Hand. Dathrohan's significance is not because of his accomplishments, but because of his defeat. During an incursion into the burning city of Stratholme, Dathrohan was separated from his fellow paladins. He could cut down the undead with ease, but there was more than shambling zombies in this cursed city.
Know that I am Balnazar. Know that you are but a pawn in plans beyond your reckoning. You cannot fight my will. You are mine. You are out of your league, Paladin.
Saidan Dathrohan had fallen right into the Dreadlord Balnazar's trap. The demonic mastermind's ultimate plan was to possess his body and infiltrate the Order of Paladins and pull the strings behind the scenes and destroy them from within.
I've been waiting for you, Paladin. Know that I will rip the soul from your flesh and make your body my own.
Oh. As Balnazar infiltrated their defenses, a paragon of light traveled from the west. High Lord Alexandros Mograine was one of the original founders of the Knights of the Silver Hand. Armed with a holy artifact called the Ashbringer, the paladin could cleave entire armies of undead in twain, and leave only ash in his wake. I cannot stress enough how much of a badass Mograine was. He was like the Master Chief of Paladins, who was a beacon of light for the downtrodden people of Lordaeron. He became such a legend that he was simply referred to as the Ashbringer. The Ashbringer also had two sons. One was named Darien, who has the most anime haircut in all of Warcraft, but more on him later. The other son was named Renault, who was taught the ways of the Paladin under Saidan Dathrohan. Over time, Saidan Dathrohan, aka Balnazar, manipulated Renault. He preyed on his insecurities, knowing that he would always live in the shadow of his father. Renault is, and always will be, a lowly foot soldier, a simple follower, and not a leader like his father. But Saidan offered him a proposition. If Renault was to kill his own father, he would be promoted to be a commanding officer in his order of paladins, and be granted the glory he justly deserved. Hey, I think you should kill your dad. Okay.
Wow, that was, surprisingly easy.
Renault then lied to his father, telling him that his brother Darien was trapped within Stratholme and needed to be rescued. Alexandros Mograine and his advisor Fairbanks traveled to the burning city, only to be overwhelmed by Scourge forces.
Come on, we gotta hurry up. We gotta find Darien. Come on, okay. More damage, yes. Go. Fairbanks, where are you? I need heals. No, by the light, he DC'd. Okay, we gotta just hurry up. We gotta time this. Quick. This is just like Finding Nemo, except with a lot more zombies.
The High Lord fell to the ground, exhausted after obliterating every vile creature that stood in his wake. But it was at this moment that the High Lord's son delivered the ultimate betrayal. This act of pure evil and resentment corrupted the Ashbringer, turning it into a weapon of hatred instead of retribution. Renault fled, returning to the town of Hearthglen to tell everyone of the death of the Ashbringer. So there's the Ashbringer, and then there's a bunch of zombies, and the zombies were like, "Bwah!" And the Ashbringer went, "Bwah!" And then there was an Abomination guy, and he went, "Bwah!" And then he went, and then the Ashbringer died. And yeah, that's what happened. Some of the paladins were quite skeptical, to say the least. Saidan had been acting quite suspicious recently, and this tall tale didn't really seem to add up. It was you, Renault, that killed Alexandros. I was there. I saw it with my own eyes. The Ashbringer thrust right through your father's back. Whoa, Fairbanks, did you not see the puppet show? Clearly it was the— I know what I saw, you traitorous bastard! Fairbanks barging in and spilling this truth was the final straw for half of the Order of Paladins, and they left instantly. They went to go create a new order that wasn't led by such sketchy and fanatic leaders like Saidan and Renault. The ones that stayed decided that they'd just quarantine Fairbanks, who was now deemed as unclean and insane. And by quarantine, I mean they executed him and threw him in a secret chamber in the cathedral. From this point onwards, the priests, paladins, and all other followers of the light separated themselves into two different organizations. The ones that really didn't trust Saidan Dathrohan left and called themselves the Argent Dawn, led by Lord Maxwell Tyrosus. This organization is accepting of all outsiders, whether they be Horde, Alliance, or even Forsaken, and their main goal is to establish peace and destroy the Scourge. The other group is called the Scarlet Crusade, led by Saidan Dathorhan. This organization is extremely against any outsiders, especially if they aren't humans.
For the Crusade!
Rather than establish peace, their main goal is to reclaim the ruined lands of Lordaeron once again and deliver retribution to the monsters that surround them. Saidan made sure that he struck fear and paranoia into his followers, warning them that any outsiders could be unclean and could be secretly carrying the Plague of Undeath. Showing mercy to them would only pull them further away from their goal of eradicating all evil from Lordaeron.
Heathen!
Now, clearly the Scarlet Crusade are not really good people, but let's look at this from their perspective. You are a citizen of Lordaeron who had your entire family killed by zombies and your life destroyed. A plague wiped through your whole kingdom that came from infected grain of all things. So I mean, how could you not be nervous about other ways the plague could be transferred? I mean, the enemy you're fighting also has
Flying death fortresses.
So who knows what unholy tricks they might have up their sleeve. Also keep in mind that some citizens were saved and converted into the Scarlet Crusade, and if we simply just look at the map in Classic, the Scarlet Crusade are the only ones getting shit done around here. They have 3 different fortified bases all around Lordaeron, while this Argent Dawn has a shitty camp and an even shittier rundown church. This isn't about being morally good for some members of the Scarlet Crusade. This is about survival. Also, their beloved capital city that was a deeply religious and known place of worship of the light was taken over by zombies that look exactly like the ones that destroyed it in the first place. As a living human, how can you be okay with that? But also, from the Forsaken's perspective, who live in the capital city, they too are citizens of Lordaeron, who have retained all their memories from when they were alive, and are now treated as monsters, and this is the only place they really can live. This is what makes the Scarlet Crusade such an interesting villain in WoW. They are a group of people who, from their perspective, have pretty reasonable motivations to avenge their kingdom, but have been pushed and manipulated into paranoia and desperation that made them lose grasp of reality and turned into the villains on Azeroth. Now that we know the insidious origins of the Crusade, let's go through each expansion in WoW and learn how the Scarlet Crusade was ultimately defeated. First, let's start with Classic and get to know the leaders of the Scarlet Monastery and their nefarious deeds.
Tell me everything.
Within the dark depths of the temple, Interrogator Vicious is known for unleashing his unrelenting sadism and cruel expertise against the enemies of the Crusade. During Classic, there's a quest that involves him stealing a wedding ring from one of his torture subjects and giving it to his own wife, which is just, oh, so incredibly evil. Interrogator Vicious also makes an appearance within the Brawlers Guild, and the announcer will yell, "Well, wrap me in leather and tug my leash, it's Dungeon Master Vicious." So, you can do with that information what you will.
Release the hounds!
Houndmaster Loxy trains his savage hounds of the Crusade to sniff out the unclean and hunt them down within the forests of Tirisfal Glades.
You will not defile these mysteries.
Within the library, Headmaster Mage Arcanus Doan combs over his tomes and teaches the fellow mages of the Crusade on how to master the use of the arcane to destroy the undead.
Ah, I've been waiting for a real challenge.
Within the Hall of Champions, Herod is... I'll be honest, Herod is literally just a shirtless guy with an axe who says, "Blades of light!" But what's more interesting is the room he's in, which is called the Hall of Champions. Here we can see a bunch of different statues of slain or missing members of the Crusade. What's confusing though is there are statues of elves and dwarves, which kind of goes against the whole ethos of the Crusade in the first place. What's even funnier about this place is the names of the people and how uncreative they are. We got Valia Twinblades. She's got 2 blades. We got Invar one arm. He's got 1 arm. We got Yana Bloodspear. He's got a spear. We got... Oh, wait, hold on. Whoa, no, wrong universe. But one of the more interesting ones is Halia Sunshield, who's got a shield. But what's interesting about her is the plaque for the statue says that she died slaying a dreadlord named Belthras. And what's interesting is that this dreadlord named Belthras returned 13 years later in-game as a mob Gul'dan summons during the Nighthold raid in Legion, which I thought is pretty neat. Anyways, back to the Scarlet Crusade. The leaders of the monastery are located within the cathedral. Renault was given what he was promised, and was promoted to Scarlet Commander of the monastery, and watches over it with Sally Whitemane.
Together we shall spread the Crusade's ideals across this land!
Now, I'd love to give you some backstory on who Lady Whitemane is, but she really doesn't have much of a backstory. Her family was all killed by the Scourge, and she swears to avenge them, which is the same story that a lot of the members of the Crusade have. Despite this, she is easily the most iconic character from the organization because of her... qualities? Of course, in-game we go in and we kill all of these bosses, but that isn't what actually happens lore-wise. What actually happens is depicted in the Ashbringer comics. What happens is Darian Mograine, that anime guy I told you to remember, storms into Naxxramas with the Argent Dawn and kills his father Alexandros Mograine, whose body was resurrected by the Scourge and is now one of the 4 horsemen. Darian then takes the corrupted Ashbringer to the Scarlet Monastery, and the ghost of Alexandros Mograine decapitates his own son. Players can experience this from Darian's perspective when they obtain the corrupted Ashbringer in Classic and take it to the Scarlet Monastery Cathedral. So, lore-wise, Renault is the only guy to die, but everyone else is alive and well. The next expansion that involves the Scarlet Crusade is Wrath of the Lich King, and trust me, it isn't pretty. You see, there is a part of the Scarlet City Tier's Hand called the Scarlet Enclave, which was completely untouched by the Scourge until now. The Lich King and his Death Knights invaded these lands in their
Flying Death Fortress
and laid the city to waste. This is the starting experience for the Death Knights in Wrath of the Lich King, and during this questline, you slowly invade and ultimately wipe out the Scarlet Enclave of all of its members, and the starting zone has some of the most annoying quests in the whole game. Like, you know that one where you have to auto-attack the Scarlet guys with those pokers? Remember that one? God, the starting zone sucks. But, as the Enclave is being invaded, High General Bridget Abendus, daughter of one of the original founders of the Scarlet Crusade, claimed to have a vision from the light itself. The vision told her that she should take her most devoted followers of the Crusade and journey to Northrend to continue their mission to purify all undead. Also, that is where the expansion takes place. This migration would be known as the Crimson Dawn, and it would revive the Crusade to new, glorious heights. The group of devoted followers were renamed to the Scarlet Onslaught and set sail for Northrend. In Northrend, they established multiple bases, the main 2 being New Hearthglen and the Onslaught Harbor. The Onslaught Harbor easily being one of the top 5 most underrated locations in all of WoW because of just so out of the way it is from everything else.
The priest in me likes when you confess your sins.
but the Inquisitor in me likes to punish you.
Commander! I see someone on the shore. What? Let me see. By the light, is that Admiral Westwind? On the shores of Northrend, Scarlet member Admiral Barrion Westwind was found. He was the captain of a previous Scarlet ship that sailed to Northrend years ago and was presumed to be long dead. I mean, there's even a statue for him in the Hall of Champions back in the Scarlet Monastery. Admiral Westwind assured his fellow Crusaders that he was the only one to survive on the ship, and simply wanted to pledge himself to be an advisor for High General Bendis. Besides, he had been surviving in this hellish tundra for years, so surely he knew a thing or two about— Just kidding, you son of a bitch! It was actually the Dreadlord Mal'Ganis!
I am Mal'Ganis. I am eternal!
So the Scarlet Onslaught was deceived for a second time by a Dreadlord, and Mal'Ganis manipulated his way up the ranks. But the real reason for the Scarlet Onslaught's involvement in Northrend ultimately being a failure was because of the overwhelming might of Horde and Alliance player characters.
I've found that without proper guidance, crusades quickly become onslaughts.
Okay, so let's jump to Cataclysm, where it's more of the same story. The Argent Dawn back in the Plague Lands made the best strategic decision of their life, and they allied with the player character. Hearthglen was taken over by the Argent Dawn, and Tyr's Hand was still left in ruins after the invasion of the Death Knights. Also, Balnazzar was defeated within Stratholme, leaving the Scarlet Monastery as the Crusade's last bastion of hope. During the Cataclysm, they revamped a lot of dungeon quests by putting the quest givers at the start of the dungeon, and the quest giver for the Scarlet Monastery wings is one of my new favorite characters. It's Joseph the Awakened. You see, Joseph is a part of a group called the Scarlet Renegades, a group who have realized the error of their Crusade's ways and are attempting to overthrow their rulers. Why not just join the Argent Dawn? I don't know, I guess they think they just really look good in red. Anyways, Joseph seems to be having problems of his own, as the further you progress through the dungeon, his name changes from Joseph the Awakened to Joseph the Crazed, and finally, Joseph the Insane, where he's found dancing in the fountain in the cathedral and has the best art of all time in the old World of Warcraft trading card game. So during the Cataclysm, lore-wise, is when all of the bosses die, except for Sally Whitemane.
Why does everyone who comes to the Scarlet Monastery want to kill me? Am I out of touch? No, it is the heathens who are wrong.
And in Mists of Pandaria, the Scarlet Monastery was revamped. Instead of 4 separate dungeons, it was combined into 2 dungeons instead. The most notable difference is that all of the bosses have been changed, but they're kind of just like off-brand versions of the original bosses. That being said, there are some interesting ones like Flame Weaver Kogler, who is so ashamed by the Scarlet Crusade's embarrassing history, he has taken it upon himself to scorch the library and destroy all evidence of their embarrassing past.
Everything must burn! None shall know the Scarlet Crusade's shame!
Also, a lot of these new bosses have like really, really thick accents.
Ah, stupid animals! I'll put you down after I kill these weaklings!
My fists are scarlet with your blood. If you die, you die.
To think you've come so far, only to perish here.
Accents have always been a weird thing in the Warcraft universe because there isn't really a place in the universe where humans live that have identifiable characteristics of heavy Russian or German accents. They kinda just have them because they sound cool. The final boss fight is still with Lady Whitemane and just some random dude named Commander Duran. We defeat them, and with the help from Lillian Voss, a complicated character I can maybe make a video about in the future, we make sure that Sally Whitemane stays dead forever. Okay, so in Legion, the Death Knights fight their way through the Scarlet Monastery and resurrect Sally Whitemane to be one of the 4 horsemen. And she's just, surprisingly okay with it after committing her entire life when she was living to killing undead. for some reason. And finally, the Scarlet Crusade had one small cameo in the Battle for Azeroth expansion. Near the Calston estate in Tirisfal, there is a collection of pamphlets from a subgroup called the Scarlet Brotherhood, and are filled with insane ramblings and, yeah. Basically, the Scarlet Crusade have kinda just turned into conspiracy theorists. I'll spare you the details, but to sum all of the ramblings up, they think Anduin is an undead-loving traitor who is secretly trying to usurp control over Lordaeron by marrying Callie Menethil. Also, the Scarlet Brotherhood plans to team up with Greymane and kill all of the undead, then kill Greymane. And lastly, the Brotherhood says that they have secretly been raising the son of Callie Menethil, who will be the new king of Lordaeron. But Callia has a daughter and not a son, so that can't even be true. In the Exploring Azeroth Eastern Kingdoms book, it is stated that the Crusade was totally wiped out in Legion, and this group called the Scarlet Brotherhood is the only remnant of the Crusade we have left. So the idea of the Scarlet Crusade ever returning in Warcraft's story is unlikely. They have been constantly losing ever since World of Warcraft came out, and their leaders have either been killed or raised into undeath, but what remains are the memories of one of the most interesting and iconic factions in all of Warcraft.
The Silver Hand failed, Paladin. Join us. Take up the path of vengeance.
Yes, we get it. You're edgy. Congratulations. Can we move this along?